Mining community, welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep the Mining podcast. And today's guest is Peter Dembicki, who's the president and CEO of Tier 1 Silver. We're an exploration company that was spun out of Auryn Resources. And we recorded an episode with them back 2 years ago, actually. The company is focused on creating significant value for shareholders through the discovery of world-class silver, gold, and base metal deposits in Peru. Peter has a background in wealth management, and he's going to come on here and talk about Tier 1 and what lies ahead for the company. So that's welcome, Peter, to the podcast. How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Rob.
No, and I appreciate your time as well. So wondered if you can give the audience a background about yourself, like a snapshot of your career up until sort of present day.
Yeah, absolutely. So when, the last 10 years previous to joining Tier 1, I was on the retail banking side and wealth management at Canaccord. Canaccord was the largest independent financial firm in Canada and expanding rapidly around the world. And, I had so many opportunities over that 10 years to learn so much about the mining sector, the exploration sector, starting up small exploracos, funding them, guiding them through the go public, process. And, at the end of in my last year or so, really looking to spread my wings out and to see how I could help other companies. And the timing was really incredible when Ivan and Sean Wallace approached me and said, listen, we're going to split our company into three. We're really hard pressed to find quality CEOs, people to lead, people that understand the capital markets. They understand what it takes to relay the story to retail, to funds, to capital markets, financing firms, and everything. Because getting that message across is crucial, especially when you're at a startup kind of phase. And that part I'm very comfortable with. And I'm so fortunate to have had such an amazing transition and the confidence in my technical team, my geologists, that I can really lean on. I feel like I've grown a lot in that area, and I'm brushed up pretty well. But it's just amazing the work that they're doing. So I made the leap. It wasn't. It was a big decision. I had two small kids. I was a very successful career. Life was good, but I really felt like this was an opportunity. So at the end of the day, it was a big decision, but it was also easy. And I made that leap, and it's been an incredible journey so far. I'm joined a company that was not yet listed, not yet funded, and such early stage of the information that was coming to us from our flagship Curibaya project, which we'll talk about in a bit. And as the information poured in, and the permits started rolling in, it started getting more and more exciting. And Ivan was like, oh man, I should have been CEO of this one. Like, why did I take sombrero? Like, this is really turning into something pretty special. So it's been a really nice ride. Maybe the precious metals market since we started out hasn't been, totally in our favor, but corporately and strategically, operations wise, it's been a great start.
Yeah. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about Tier 1 Silver. Obviously, it's a relatively new company, and it was a spin out from Auryn Resources. And I interviewed Ivan back in December 2019. So obviously things have changed since then. So just wondering if you can give us an overview of Tier 1, and also, I suppose, what drew you to the company and to the projects?
So Auryn Resources had a massive portfolio of projects, and they had assets in Quebec, Nunavut, British Columbia, and a lot of assets that were gaining a lot of traction in Peru. And at some point they said, we have to make a decision. We're spread way too thin. And plus the market isn't giving us value for all our projects independent of one of each other. They're just focusing on the one that has the drill turning on it. So they decided to break the company up to really unlock that value for shareholders. And they split it up into three companies: Fury Gold, which hosts all the Canadian assets. It's currently traded on the TSX. and the New York Stock Exchange, I believe, under FURY. And they have their properties in Quebec, British Columbia, and their new exploration target up in Nunavut, which they're going after in a big way. And that really is the Canadian gold portfolio of the project. And next was a large copper land package and exploration targets that they discovered in Peru that they were able to acquire, in which they, more of copper gold kind of targets, and that's what they call the Sombrero asset. They, are looking to get listed in the next few months. You're going to be hearing more and more from them as it comes along, but a huge deal there to be had. And then lastly was Tier 1 silver, and not in any order of quality at all, but we just knew least about it. And so I guess drawing into the last question, or the last part of your question, is, what drew me to the project at that stage? Well, mostly it was people. It's so hard to find a management team and founders like we have, and a technical team that have been a part of not one, but multiple discoveries. That is something that you want to hang your hat on, finding one, or being a part of a team that found one in your entire career. These guys have done it independently and by them, multiple times. It's one thing to find as a discovery. It's another thing to know what to do with it. And they have that corporate outreach and they have that technical skill to be able to do both. So really it was people. And, I think everybody knows of Rick Rule, who've listening to your podcasts. And, I always kind of go over a lot of his old material, and I came across an interview he did a few years back, and he was explaining that, 1 in 5,000 mineralized anomalies actually end up becoming a mine. And, those odds are a long shot. But when you're investing your personal money or someone else's money into an exploration company, those odds can be heavily improved in your favor, and that percentage can come down dramatically if you invest in proper explorationists that have done it before. So in my mind, check. We have the team of Michael Hendrickson, Dave Smithson, both formerly of Newmont, Antonio Arribas, former chief geologist of Newmont Global, on our board. We have that expertise. And second is if you want to hit it big, and the thesis of Tier 1 is going after massive world-changing projects. We're not going after something that has 20 people drilling the same thing and we're just, plugging along and trying to fill in the gaps. Or we're not something that is trying to revive a pulse on a project that was alive, 40, 50 years ago. This property in Curibaya has never before been drilled up until now. And when you're going after large projects that are going to be your true world-class discoveries, those kind of discoveries that can provide those 10, 20, 30 times your return, you got to go to countries that are a little bit different, a little bit underexplored, and a lot less is known about the area. And I think Peru fits that perfectly. Here you have such a vast mineral-rich country, for the most part remains mostly unexplored for various different reasons. And we have found a couple of assets in Peru that we're so fortunate to have. We've worked hard to get them, but they're really starting to come to fruition now. And so, the projects are, the second part behind people, because predominantly it is an investment into people, and the projects sometimes sell themselves. And in this case, with our flagship Curibaya and Hurricane Silver, which will be coming to the forefront soon, we're really fortunate to have that as well. So those two combined, and our ability to manage capital markets is best to our ability. It provides a really great setup to find that world-class discovery.
Yeah. You're currently drilling, obviously, the company's flagship project in Peru. And it's the first time this project's ever been drilled. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about the program so far and how things have developed. Absolutely.
So when we first started out, and you have to take these steps before you actually start putting drills into the ground. So one, you do have to do a lot of surface exploration. Well, when we started doing that, our numbers coming back were nothing short of exceptional. Rock grab samples up to 300,000 grams per ton silver, gold close to a kilo. So it was happening over a 20 square kilometer, footprint, and it just keeps growing and growing, by the way. And so we go, okay, there's precious metals, indication all over the surface here. So that gave us that next kind of vote of confidence to take the next step, spend a little bit more money. We flew a magnetic survey, we did some IP, a lot of geophysics to kind of prepare it. And sure enough, there was some large chargeabilities going on. Magnetic anomaly really lent us to say, okay, there's some targets under here. But of course, we have to prove this out. And the third part was really proving out the trench work, and channel sampling. When you look at the property, we are in amongst the giants in Peru. It is copper producers, copper gold producers, some with silver with a byproduct, all up and down the coast of Peru. Then there's a gap, and then they start again in Chile. So people were looking over this area where Curibaya is situated for years, but predominantly looking for that copper, gold, and an indication of a porphyry. And if you go on surface, and if you're not looking for precious metals, well, you're not going to probably find much. And if you're looking for that indication of a porphyry on surface, well, you might not find it either. But when we really took a good screening of the area, the entire area, Curibaya came back as a #1 target for precious metals. And you start looking, and these veins start revealing themselves. And so we've encountered some incredible economic, size veins on surface. And so with that knowledge, we got our drill permit, as I mentioned earlier, while the company was coming into its own. So we got going. Once we got listed on June 9th on the TSX Venture, we had a great, we were received very well by the markets, and we got drilling. We wanted to start learning more. And anytime you're going into a 20 square kilometer land package that has never been drilled before, and you're drilling a hole that might have a 10 or 15 centimeter diameter, that's your definition of needle in a haystack, right? So the first hole that we drilled was really about, can you please confirm if there's a system down here? Or are we going to return something that looks like your countertop in your kitchen? Of which we would have been really disappointed. And 100% came back, there's a system. The rock was altered, there's veining everywhere. Our first hole was based off of geophysics. So we were going after a chargeability anomaly. And while we were drilling, we got these high grade feeder structure information back that led us to believe that we literally drilled 70 meters aside from a major feeder structure all the way down the hill, all the way down the hole. And that was actually really positive news, right? And we got a lot of smoke, a lot of indications, some great grades that said, listen, we're close. We're close, but we didn't cross a feeder structure. And having all these new vein feeder structure information come back to us now that we have in hand, that's been verified by the labs, it says, okay, let's identify 5 or 6 of these, which we have on our property, and start drilling right across them. Let's start getting this to market. Drilling shorter holes, because the assay turnaround times are troublesome in Peru, as they are globally, from what I understand. And let's get some shorter holes across these feeder structures, and let's get some grade. And then once we've established these feeder structures are mineralized, follow them to the source, and we could go after these porphyry targets as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously Peru is probably pretty undeveloped in terms of obviously natural resources, and I just wondered if you can give our audience an overview of what mining is like in Peru, and also how does the sort of local government, local communities, how they responded to you guys being there, and are they supporting you as well?
So I would caution to use the word underdeveloped, because it is home to some of the largest producers in the world, and they're not far from our address at all. So mining has been improved for some time. Tons of historic mining, obviously dating all the way back to the early empires of the day, and so it's nothing new to the country itself. I would say, there are so many rich targets in the country that may never be accessible to mining companies, and there are these bonanza style targets that once in a while you get your hands on, like we do. So it is it's I would say it's underexplored as a country as a whole, but maybe not underdeveloped yet. And so
I think that's what I meant. So
yeah, no, I had a feeling. Yeah, so it's sometimes those words are interchangeable for sure. But as far as community relations and politics, well, your community is your heartbeat of your project, and you have to have great community relations, not only to take that first step, but obviously follow you and work with you as not someone that you're trying to appease at all times, but work with them as a partner. We employ 20 plus community members at our camp. We bring them along. We want to provide added value to our community, not just be there and hope that they let us be there. And so they have a voice, right? And I think one of the major hurdles in Peru over the last number of years is you have all these major producing mines out there, but the trickle down effect isn't really helping the rural communities. So that's why we've seen a lot of political reshuffling of the chairs over the last number of years, is because that there is a portion of the population that doesn't feel heard. And so dealing with our community at Curibaya, well, we only have one community that we're dealing with, and they're phenomenal. And they understand the true implications if we find something special here, the economic it could have on the area. Now, our project is free and clear of archaeology, free and clear of residential areas, free and clear of agriculture. So we don't have to take any unnecessary hurdles to get in there. It's basically desert. You're in the Atacama Desert, foothills of the Andes. There's nothing there. And so really we're quite blessed with the infrastructure and the setup of this project, and how that might have helped us with our communities to say, yeah, go ahead, we're with you on this one. So communities is huge, and dealing with the local government, it's a process. But when we were told we were going to have a year wait for our drilling permit at Curibaya, we got it in 5 months, and that is a massive pat on the back to our team in Peru, with Christian Rios heading up our operations. That if you provide quality applications and quality projects with quality people, you're going to get quality back, and that's what's happened there.
Yeah, no, that's good results. What's next for Tier 1? Obviously, you have a number of other projects in the portfolio, and it seems the Hurricane Silver project is your next focus. So what's the plan there?
Yeah, we've been working with the group that got us Hurricane, a group called Pembroke, a private company based out of Peru, and a fellow by the name of Dan Innes, formerly of Newmont. So we looked at this group and we thought, well, everything they have in their portfolio is very high quality. Our geologists come from a technical background from Newmont, so they knew the work was verified and trustworthy and very high quality. So we were actually working on getting Hurricane for about 1.5 years, when it was back a part of the Auryn package. And the fact that it came to fruition for Tier 1 was phenomenal timing. And so I have trouble using the words flagship, because I feel like we have 2 flagships. And anytime you can get your hands on a project like this to give our shareholders a potential second swing, like Curibaya is looking absolutely amazing. And by no means is bringing on Hurricane taking anything away from Curibaya. That couldn't be more from more wrong, more opposite. It is actually giving you a second opportunity here. So Hurricane, which you're going to hear from in the coming days, we're going to get some boots on the ground, get our geologists up there, start working. Probably won't be drill ready for another 10 to 12 months, but a lot of work to be done, a lot of results to come out of there. And so while Curibaya is ongoing its initial drill program, we start getting results back over the next 4 or 5 months, probably straight through until March or April from these first drills. Hurricane's working in the background, providing that extra punch for shareholders. So we really do have 2 kind of quote unquote flagships, and not one is taking away from the other. It is just multiple opportunities. So you're going to hear more about that in the coming days for sure.
Yeah. You were at the Precious Metals Summit in Beaver Creek, obviously just recently, and now you're heading to the Silver Symposium in Idaho. It's nice to obviously see some conferences getting back in person events. And funny enough, I actually went to one last week here in the UK. What's been the sentiment you've been feeling amongst investors in the actual precious metal sector?
Yeah, it was nice to see people in person, face to face, go so much further than virtual. Although I enjoy being on your show, having that human contact is worth a lot, and I can only exude so much excitement through a screen, but it is meaningful to be back in person. As far as the overall sentiment, I think people are excited. They're excited to kind of get back to it. The precious metals macro market, well, it sure seems like there's a lot of different moving parts to what makes the price on every other day. And if you follow it too closely, you'll probably go a little bit crazy, because sometimes it doesn't make sense. And I feel like those guys from the story The Big Short, that were short the mortgage housing in 2008, for the longest of time, I think it was over a year, the bet just wasn't, it wasn't materializing the way they thought, and they just had to hold until finally it did. And it sure feels like that for precious metals, silver in particular, because it's very rare to have that commodity that has the speculative nature, the storage of you're safeguarding from inflation, money, tapering, QE, all that kind of stuff, but also has a massive use case for it as well. So everybody's large infrastructure plans, renewable energy plans, depends on a lot of silver. 30 grams per silver in a solar panel. China and the US are going full tilt to get their renewable energy up to par. And it's going to take a lot of silver, and there hasn't been a massive silver discovery in a great number of years. So everything seems to point towards silver being, 5-10 times what the current price is right now. You sure think it would be, especially given the amount of money flooding the system, inflation doing what it's doing. There's just so many things happening in the macro environment that are maybe holding it down, including possibly some people that are caught way off guard and way offside, that need to push the price of and have the power to push the price of silver down. So it's a rabbit hole that if you go down, be careful, because there's no bottom, and you can find the narrative that you want to jump to. But even at this price, even at $14 silver or $10 silver, our projects are going to make sense. And let's remember, when we find that discovery and start proving it out, it'll defy what's happening on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, it's frustrating at times. When we listed our company, silver, I believe, was at $28 or $27, and it's trickled down ever since. And so we've had to fight that as well. And I think it's something that exploration developers and producers have been fighting for so many years. But I think it all comes back. It's all going to work. You look at what happened a year and a half after 08-09, precious metals skyrocketed, and they only printed, I think, 900 billion at that point. So we're putting a T in front of it now, and by multiples, and that'll come back. They can only kick the can down the road for so long, and I truly believe we're going to see much better precious metals pricing in the future. And if you're invested in a quality company with quality people and quality projects, you're going to go along for that ride.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly an undersupply of silver. And obviously, talking about price, silver has sort of fallen about 20% over the last 4 months. What do you see the outlook for silver? I suppose in the short term and medium term. We can obviously all say in the long term it's gonna take off. But what would you say you're seeing in the short to medium term?
Oh,
and I don't want to put you on the spot asking you what price, but how do you see it playing out?
I look at it as this, it's going to be volatile. It's silver's nature to be volatile. It has a lot of torque to it when it gets going, and we've seen on days like yesterday in the market, it can get sold off more than the other metals out there and other commodities as well. So it has that nature, that volatile nature about it. But I think that's what draws a lot of silver investors to it, because it has that ability to double in price, triple in price, if everything aligns correctly. So what's my forecast for short term? I guess timing is and term is all relative, but I see volatility. Probably in the $20 to $30 range. It's going to find its ways up and down. The government is globally, any government is not out of this COVID crisis yet, and that has huge economic impact on everything that we do, including the precious metals market. You look at the macro environment for the stock market. Well, man, it sure doesn't feel like we're hitting all-time highs every single day in my sector. And maybe that's for a reason, because you have 4 or 5 companies leading the charge on the major US exchanges, global exchanges, the largest companies in the world. And if these things are returning 30, 35% a year, why would you allocate your money to speculative investments or exploration companies or anything that carries a little bit more risk? You don't need to. So we saw yesterday in the market's getting chopped pretty hard. And I think we're going to see more of those days as it needs to cool off. It's getting a little bit frothy. And I think what you'll see is the smart money moving into areas that haven't benefited from these market conditions. And I believe commodities is going to be one of them. And when that money goes in, the real money, it'll turn and it'll be a ferocious rise. And to the point where you'll be, throwing money at whatever you can to get a part of it. And so I think it's all working out. And but I don't think we're going to see any dramatic rises in silver in the very short term. However, it will go, and I think it'll start working towards that as the larger cap markets sort themselves out, and we emerge from this COVID mess.
Yeah. As a conclusion, dual holes are pending at Curibaya, surface work at Hurricane Silver. Is there anything else that investors should look forward to?
Well, we got actually 4 holes pending results at the moment. Our current holes that we're drilling, going under some massively high grade channel sampling that we did. So we're going to have results coming back on a as consistent as we possibly can, in an expedited nature as we possibly can, but we're kind of at the mercy of the labs on that one. Hurricane Silver, we're going to have some results trickling out as we get to work on that property. We also have 35 trenches and I think 50 plus more rock samples, at least in the lab, coming back from Curibaya. I mean, when I visited the site in early August, I had a chance to meet with these geologists, and they truly were like kids in a toy store. They didn't know what aisle to go down. They were like, Peter, every direction we go, it continues to get better. Look at what we're finding here. Look what we're finding to the west, to the north. And the footprint keeps getting bigger. And so it truly is an exceptional project. And so the veining channel sampling that we're doing, the grab samples that are coming from within our footprint and also beyond. Because if you really take a look at our project, we're only really using a quarter of the property. And we have every reason to believe that there's more targets on our property. It's 100% owned, and it's never really been explored. So it's an exciting time. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. It sounds definitely Tier 1 seems an exciting prospect, and there's so much potential there, as you've obviously explained. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions or want to follow obviously the journey, how can they go about contacting you? And are you across any social media platforms, you or Tier 1?
Yeah, we're active on social media. Locate us at Tier 1 Silver on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Please go to tier1silver.com, our website. We have a great introductory marketing video to introduce you to Curibaya, and you'll get a good sense of the team and the project and what we believe we discovered here. So reach out anytime. I love talking to shareholders and potential shareholders in the sector, and yeah, please, it's been a great opportunity to speak with you.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time, Peter, as well. I know how busy you are. Obviously, as we were before we were speaking off air, and obviously the excitement that you've got. And I noticed that before we were on there, and hopefully that will come through on the podcast and obviously on the YouTube channel. And if anyone meets you in person, I'm sure they'll get that same reaction from you, because I think it's exciting what you've got there, and it's only going to get better. So for those that are listening, appreciate if you can share and like this podcast, whether you're watching it on YouTube. Appreciate if you can share and like it. Again, I appreciate the audience that are listening. Appreciate if you can pass the episode on to other people that you know within the industry, because it's certainly an exciting prospect here. Silver is under supply, and certainly it's going to be a good project for the future. So really appreciate your time again, Peter. And until next time, happy mining.
Thanks, Rob.